So, life is a mystery. When I was little, I never really socialized with my peers. I didn't understand them. Um, I was the type of person to love lectures, to love education, to love learning. And that I didn't understand pop culture all that much. And I I was sheltered. I will say that I was sheltered growing up, and in essence it has left me wondering about a lot of things. Um as of this coming September, I'll have been practicing yoga for 8 years, and over those 8 years I have come to wonder even more. For example, if you close your eyes, such as I'm doing right now, you cannot see me. If you close your ears, you won't be able to hear me, right? Through these senses, we perceive the world around us and we make decisions about our actions. But nobody, except for us, excuse me, can see what we see, can hear what we hear, can feel what we feel. There are times when I would stop for a second and think. It would only take me a second or two to really be blown away by the fact that I'm witnessing all of this. I am witnessing the world around me. I am witnessing the happenings of the world around me. And over the last 7 years, I mentioned a moment ago that I've been practicing yoga, and it genuinely changed my life. I try my hardest to see everybody as an equal. So much so that I've looked very recently, in fact, at the ideas of governments, of class systems, and religions, and it's all left me wondering the exact same question. Why? Because if you think about it, we hide everything under books, under policies. The truth of the matter is, everything is here just because. If you think about it, a lot of people would say, well, there are laws of nature. I will not dispute that. There are laws of nature, yes. But a couple of years ago over Thanksgiving, I was talking to one of the employees at our local Best Buy who had been assigned to work the Thanksgiving holiday. And this was one of those things. In fact, I made a video about it, if I remember correctly. But it's one of those things that made me wonder why. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's to boost profit, whatever. No, that is not an acceptable answer to me anymore. The only acceptable answer in a situation like that is because we can. My hand is energy. The light from the sun, that's energy. Our very existence is energy. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, no doubt if you've ever watched Bill Nye the Science Guy or taken an elementary level, maybe fifth grade level science course, you will have learned that we are all made up of atoms. The same sort of stuff the universe is made of, correct? We are nothing but manifested energy. Everything inside of us is energy. And we look at all these governments, these cultures. Now, culture is a wonderful thing. We all have our own stories to tell. I'm not about to dispute that by any means. But to me, it seems ridiculous the fact that we are living in a time where we can become friends with anybody across the globe. In fact, one of my subscribers, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this person's either from the Ukraine or Russia. Please forgive me if I screwed that up. But we're able to communicate with each other all over the world, and it's possible to become friends, to really understand one another. And yet, we still remain, to an extent, still remain divided, and I don't understand why, because though we may speak in different tongues, if you run a translator through, in fact, I've got a friend from Brazil, and he and I have had some interesting chats. We actually see eye to eye on a lot of things. All we had to do was run our words through a translator, and we're able to have conversations. And yet, at the same time, we've got people putting up these barriers. I won't go into the specifics. I'm sure you already know what they are, and I refuse to get into a flame war about it. Thank you very much. The point I'm trying to make is this. We are nothing. I am nothing. Now, before you punch me in the nose, hear me out. We, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we are nothing but energy, correct? Right? In the grand scheme of things, I am living in a house, in a neighborhood, in a suburb, in a city, in a state, in a continent, on a planet. State, in a country, on a continent, on a planet. In a galaxy, in a universe. In the grand scheme of things, we are honestly nothing. We are just a speck in the grand cosmos of our existence. Everything that exists on this planet is all thanks to what goes on up here in our minds. Our perception of reality, our perception of the world around us, the research that we have done, all of it is up here. There have been multiple occasions where I would think back to our history and wonder, what would it have been like if, things had turned out differently? The massacres that had happened in our history never happened. What if? That's one of the great questions that I have. And to continue what we're doing in terms of adversarial rivalries, one country versus another country, it's stupid. It is genuinely very, very stupid. Consider when you were growing up on the playground. Were you ever bullied? How is our current geopolitical climate, the adversarial part of it, any different than the bullying that has gone on in the playgrounds? In my mind, it's not. We have the ability to solve all of our problems. And a lot of people are saying, well, geopolitical, whatever, financial resources, again, whatever, all of that. It's up here. It's in our minds. All it requires is a change of thought. A new way of looking at the world. I learned several years ago that this planet, this home of ours, all you have to do is for those of you who can see, take a look at a picture of the Earth on Google. Seriously, go Google it right now. Take a look at the picture of the Earth. And for those of you who cannot see, if you have any access to tactile graphics, here's where I'm going. If you take a look at a photo of the Earth, you will note these barriers, these states, these counties. We may see lines on a map, but we don't see lines on an actual, on the actual land masses themselves. Cities, gates, anything that is not a mountain or a river, that in that sense, a mountain and a river, they are barriers. You can cross those barriers if you choose to. But beyond that, the barriers we have, those are man-made. Or I should say, human constructed. And again, it's all up here. We have allowed ourselves to become members of pockets of human beings. We have allowed ourselves to become isolated. Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, we were born that way. I completely acknowledge that, and I understand that. Over thousands of years, we as human beings were deposited on this planet in our own little corners of the globe, and until the time of the internet and the time of the telephone and whatnot, it was much harder to communicate than it is now. So I acknowledge and I understand this whole business of being born into these pockets. Now, but then why would I say something like we allow ourselves to be a member of these pockets? Because now that we have the ability to communicate and to work together, I mean, once the language barriers fall, we may find we have something in common with our fellow humans from across the pond. And that is happening. We are finding this. But at the same time, I don't see life the way others do. Governments, hierarchies. None of it makes sense to me. None of it makes sense to me because while we may live in pockets, we are all one humanity. We are all one humanity, and allowing ourselves to continue to live in these pockets, I think, is rather silly. I mean, we've set up these barriers to entry to other countries in the interest of quote unquote national security. In my mind, if we got along better as a humanity, if we got along better as a species, there wouldn't be need for any of this. I genuinely do not see a need for any of this. Rather than building walls, we need to be tearing them down. The other thing I do not understand is a lot of people say, oh, we need to live our life the best we can. And that I do agree with that. But what falls apart for me is what is life and what is reality. Now, before anybody says anything, no, I am not delusional. Hear me out. Reality is relative. There are laws of nature such as law of gravity, law of physics, etc., all within the confines of our existence. But what of the beyond? This is one of the reasons I don't get humanity, okay? We live our lives presuming that's all there is. We come up with these man-made religions, and there have been so many battles over these religions. Yet it is a way for us to look into the beyond. But much like our human civilization, we've put that into pockets. Why? See, to me, this universe is bigger than any one of us. We are the universe. The universe is us. And to live our lives presuming that this is it, that this is all we are, this is all we have, I think that is very, forgive me for saying this, but I'm going to say it, I think that is very closed-minded. We should be questioning everything on this planet. Everything that has an abstract meaning. What do I mean by this? If I hit myself in the head, ow, right? Like, that hurt. I can feel, don't worry, I didn't hit myself all that bad. It was just for an example. So beyond that physical, beyond the physical, there is only what we perceive to be reality. Right up in here. So that's why I asked, what of the beyond? What do I think? Let me give you an example. There is a science fiction drama film um, called Solaris. And in the film, George Clooney plays a scientist that ends up going to this space station because his friend has asked him to come, who happens to be one of the crew members. He gets up there, and what ends up happening is this planet recreates from his memories his late wife in physical form, literally out of nowhere, as a mirror of his mind. And yes, it is it's science fiction, but the universe is so big. I'm almost certain there's got to be something like that out there. There is something beyond human. Now, people, again, have tried to put it into pockets, calling it God, etc., etc. The universe is a singular plurality. What do I mean by that? At least in my mind, it is one, and yet it is many. It is a singular entity with many different manifestations. For instance, out there in the universe, I'm almost positive we can't be alone. There's so much space out there, it's ridiculous. Now, granted, if a higher intelligence were headed this direction, chances are it wouldn't get here until after we died, unless they have technology that we don't know about. But at the same time, once they got here, what would they think of us? If we continue to live in our pockets and continue to fight amongst ourselves, they're going to think us, forgive me, but pretty stupid. I genuinely don't understand why things are the way they are. Again, beyond the physical, beyond, you can prove something obviously with data, but I think there's much more to it than that. Films like Solaris, like The Matrix, films that make you question your very existence. I question it every day, pretty much. I mean, we are energy, we are nothing, and yet we are everything. The fact that we are here in and of itself is amazing. I think we are more than what we give ourselves credit for. Beyond this form, there is only pure energy. At least that's how I feel. But at the same time, we must protect ourselves. We must band together. Or else this, our only home, could be destroyed. I don't want it to be destroyed. But then again, what of the simulation? What of this existence? Is it that we end up reliving in a different life? Because I personally believe that we have lived multiple lives. In fact, I find myself drawn not just to science fiction, but also anything in the 1800s, early 1900s. I honestly feel content whenever I watch something from that period, whether it be at Victoria, Downton Abbey, anything historical from that period. There's just so much out there. And yet here we are focusing on artificial things like money, like borders, like, putting ourselves into these groups. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And at this rate, I'm beginning to wonder if I ever will. Sorry for rambling, but I had to get that off my chest. Feel free to comment. What do you guys think? Am I nuts? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome and have a nice day.